Scully. I know, I said I was going to take a day off today. Excuse me. Oh, boy. Good morning. Yeah, the way things are going right now, Scully, it's like, I don't want to take a day off right now. I really don't. Because the blue is rising. The Blue Rose Task Force. And it's not time to let up on the gas right now. Maybe tomorrow. Maybe Wednesday. But not right now. Because after yesterday's visit to Palmer, Massachusetts, well, everything's changed. I almost feel like going back to that place today. Scully. I wonder if that's what I'll do. We're gonna start reading The Wonderful Wizard of Oz later on. He chose peace, they marked him for death. I was told to keep it up, to keep him coming, and really? How about the images of the dead civilians in Hiroshima? That would shock the world too, wouldn't it? If you started telling the world phony media, Medusa, phony middleman. If you started telling everyone and showing images of Hiroshima from 1945, and you started talking about how the United States is the only nation that's ever dropped a nuclear weapon on a civilian population, and it was on a Sunday morning. And they were sitting there in church, peacefully praying. That's your United States government that did that, and it was unnecessary when you really study the whole thing. The U.S. got into World War II by trickery against the American people, dishonesty, and they got out of the war by the dishonesty as well, Diane. So I'm going to take you over to the window in a second. I'm going to go into the shower. I got 40 minutes before the coffee shop opens on this Monday, the 4th of April, 2022. We are following the yellow brick road. Following the yellow brick road. And right now we're going back to an interview that we started before. And now we're going to go back to it. Here's the guy that brought you the hero's journey archetype, or the one who codified it and made it intelligible, brought it forth to the public. Joseph Campbell, J.C. with B.M. Bill Moyers. No, not Mill Boyers. Not Will Byers. Although, did I just figure something out, Diane? Did I just figure something out there with Will Byers and Bill Moyers? Phonetically, it's a connection there, and then definitely The gematria of Will Byers, it has that 125. Talking about Will Byers from Stranger Things. Stranger Things, which has the same ordinal gematria 179 as Saturn's rings. Stranger Things, Saturn's rings. My whole name, 16-letter name, Kyle Charles Grant. 16-letter word, electromagnetism. Also 179. The Yellow Card Man, 179. Dog Star Sirius, 179. This is Sirius, 179. Yeah. Serious, Diane. They put face diapers on everyone and there's a whole shit ton of people who are still wearing them even though they're not mandated any longer. It's like the mask is permanently affixed to them now. Oh my gosh, it's like the fracking movie, isn't it? The Mask, which is 77. The Magic Mask. 77. The Mask, same as Christ. Same as power, same as glory, same as kingdom. Start reading. We'll read this too out loud. We'll start this today at some point. I was thinking of one possible thing we could do is take a drive to Auburn and see the shopping center there. Because they have a 21st century shopping center there. I know these shopping malls are dinosaurs and they're almost gone because of the now the online shopping having taken over. I'm gonna go to the bathroom and take a shower, Diane. And I gotta go get a cup of coffee. Don't gotta, but I sure want to because I love coffee. We know this though. I've repeated that many times already. Black coffee. Black as midnight on a moonless night.
Common features of these two, the significance of the forbidden fruit.
Well, there's this standard folk tale motif called the one forbidden thing. Remember in Bluebeard, don't open that closet, you know? And then one always does it. And in the Old Testament story, God gives the one forbidden thing, and he knows very well. Now I'm interpreting God. He knows very
JC,
well that man's going to eat the forbidden fruit. But it's by doing that man becomes the initiator of his own life. Life really begins with that.
I also find
man plans, God laughs.
Stories,
planned on not doing many videos, God laughed.
To find someone to blame. Let me read Genesis 1, then I'll ask you to read one from the Basara legend.
Right.
Genesis 1, and God said, have you eaten from the tree which I commanded you that you should not eat? Then the man said, the woman whom you gave to be with me, she gave me of the tree, and I ate. And the Lord God said to the woman, what is this you've done? And the woman said, the serpent deceived me, and I ate. I mean, you talk about buck passing, it starts very early. And then there's the Basara legend.
It's been tough on serpents, too. One day, Snake said, we too should eat these fruits. Why must we go hungry? Antelope said, but we don't know anything about this fruit. Then man and his wife took some of the fruit and ate it. Unumbate came down from the sky and asked, who ate the fruit? They answered, we did. Unumbate asked, who told you that you could eat that fruit? They replied, Snake did. It's the same
Poor
story.
snake.
It's the same
What do you
story.
make of this? That in all of these stories, the principal actors are pointing to someone else as the initiator of the fall.
Yeah, but it turns out to be Snake. And Snake in both of these stories is the symbol of life throwing off the past and continuing to live.
Why?
The power of life, because the snake sheds its skin, just as the moon sheds its shadow. The snake in most cultures is positive. Even the most poisonous saint in India, the cobra, is the sacred animal. And the serpent, the Naga, the serpent king, Nagaraja, is the next thing to the Buddha. Because the serpent represents the power of life in the field of time to throw off death. And the Buddha represents the power of life in the field of eternity to be eternally alive. Now, I saw a fantastic thing of a Burmese priestess, a snake priestess, who had to bring rain to her people by calling a king cobra from his den and kissing him 3 times on the nose. There was the cobra, the giver of life, the giver of rain, which is of life, as a divine, positive, not negative figure.
The Christian story has turned it around because the serpent was the seducer.
Well, but what that amounts to is a refusal to affirm life. Life is evil in this view. Every natural impulse is sinful unless you've been baptized or circumcised in this tradition that we've inherited, for heaven's sakes.
By having been the tempter, women have paid a great price because in mythology, some of this mythology, they are the ones who led to the downfall.
Of course they did. I mean, they represent life. Man doesn't enter life except by woman. And so it is woman who brings us into the world of polarities and pair of opposites and suffering and all. But I think it's a really childish attitude to say no to life with all its pain, you know? To say this is something that should not have been. Schopenhauer, in one of his marvelous chapters, I think it's in The World's One Idea, says, life is something that should not have been. It is, in its very essence and character, a terrible thing to consider. This business of living by killing and eating. I mean, it's in sin in terms of all ethical judgments all the time.
As Zorba says, trouble? Life is trouble.
That's it.
Only death is no trouble.
And when people say to me, do you have optimism about the world, how terrible it is? I said, yes, just say it's great. Just the way it is.
But doesn't that lead to a rather passive attitude in the face of evil, in the face of wrong?
Participate in it. Whatever you do is evil for somebody.
But explain that for the audience. I mean, you say yes to that which you...
Well, when I was in India, there was a man whose name was Sri Krishna Menon, and his mystical name was Mananda, and he was in Trivandrum, and I went to Trivandrum. And I had the wonderful privilege of sitting face to face with him as I'm sitting here with you. And the first thing he said to me is, "Do you have a question?" And because the teacher there always answers questions, he doesn't tell you anything, he answers. And I said, "Yes, I have a question." I said, since in Hindu thinking all the universe is divine, is a manifestation of divinity itself, how could we say no to anything in the world? How could we say no to brutality, to stupidity, to vulgarity, to thoughtlessness? And he said, for you and me, you must say yes. Well, I had learned from my friends who were students of his that that happened to have been the first question he asked his guru, and we had a wonderful talk for about an hour there on this theme of the affirmation of the world. And it confirmed me in a feeling I had that who are we to judge? And it seems to me that this is one of the great teachings of Jesus.
Well, I see now what you mean in one respect. In some classic Christian doctrine, the world is to be despised. Life is to be redeemed in the hereafter. It is heaven where our rewards come. And if you affirm that which you deplore, as you say, you're affirming the world, which is our eternity of the moment.
That's what I would say. Eternity isn't some later time. Eternity isn't a long time. Eternity has nothing to do with time. Eternity is that dimension of here and now, which thinking in time cuts out.
This is it.
This is it.
This is my...
If you don't get it here, you won't get it anywhere. And the experience of eternity right here and now is the function of life. There's a wonderful formula that the Buddhists have for the Bodhisattva. The Bodhisattva, the one whose being, sattva, is illumination, bodhi, who realizes his identity with eternity and at the same time his participation in time. And the attitude is not to withdraw from the world when you realize how horrible it is, but to realize that this horror is simply the foreground of a wonder. And come back and participate in it. All life is sorrowful, is the first Buddhist saying, and it is. It wouldn't be life if there were not temporality involved, which is sorrow, loss, loss, loss.
That's a pessimistic note.
Well, I mean, you gotta say yes to it and say it's great this way. I mean, this is the way God intended it.
You don't really believe that?
But this is the way it is. And I don't believe anybody intended it, but this is the way it is. And Joyce's wonderful line, you know, history is a nightmare from which I'm trying to awake. And the way to awake from it is not to be afraid and to recognize, as I did in my conversation with that Hindu guru or teacher that I told you of, that all of this as it is as it has to be, and it is a manifestation of the eternal presence in the world. The end of things always is painful. Pain is part of there being a world at all.
But if one accepted that isn't the ultimate conclusion, to say, well, I won't try to reform any laws or fight any battles or...
I didn't say that.
isn't the logical. Couldn't one draw that, though, the philosophy of nihilism?
Well, that's not the necessary thing to draw. You could say, I will participate in this row, and I will join the army, and I will go to war.
I'll do the best I can.
I will participate in the game. It's a wonderful, wonderful opera, except that it hurts. And that wonderful Irish saying, is this a private fight or can anybody get into it? This is the way life is. And the hero is the one who can participate in it decently, in the way of nature, not in the way of personal rancor, revenge, or anything of the kind. Let me tell you one story here of a samurai warrior, a Japanese warrior, who had the duty to avenge the murder of his overlord. And he actually, after some time, found and cornered the man who had murdered his overlord. And he was about to deal with him with his samurai sword when this man in the corner, in a passion of terror, spat in his face. And the samurai sheathed the sword and walked away. Why did he do that?
Why?
Because he was made angry, and if he had killed that man, then it would have been a personal act. It was another kind of act. That's what he had come to do.
Let me tell you what happens to me when I read these stories, no matter the culture of their origin. I feel first this sense of wonder at the spectacle of the human imagination, simply groping to try to understand this existence. Does that ever happen to you?
I tell you, mythology I think of as the homeland of the muses, the inspirers of art, the inspirers of poetry. And to see life as a poem and yourself participating in a poem is what the myth does for you.
What do you mean, a poem?
I mean a vocabulary in the form not of words, but of acts and adventures, which is connotative, which connotes something transcendent of the action here, and which yet informs the whole thing, so that you always feel in accord with the universal being.
Well, the interesting thing to me is that far from undermining my faith, your work in mythology has liberated my faith from the cultural prisons to which it had been sentenced.
It liberated my own. I know it's going to do it with everybody who really gets the message. Every mythology, every religion is true in this sense. It is true as metaphorical of the human and cosmic mystery. But when it gets stuck to the metaphor,
Had to plug it
then
in
you're
there,
in
Diane.
trouble.
The metaphor
Dell computer
being-
almost shutting down. Lost juice. Oh, he did shut down. So much for going to 1956. Let me see if I can do that still. Been in 1950, so we've been bridging the 21st and 20th centuries. Creating a flux capacitor generated terrestrial tether, temporal flux tether. Past and the future, past and the present. It's now 6:11, Diane. We're edging ever closer to the opening of the coffee shop. We'll do 1956 later, Diane. If not today, tomorrow. We're on our way anyway. After yesterday, Diane, everything's different. Everything's changed after yesterday, which was 4/3/2022. I'm not going to talk about it too much, but I did get a ring at 12:45 a.m. private listing, expecting it to come back. I was asleep and I woke up shortly after that, and I don't have my phone. It wasn't the ringing of the phone that woke me up, but I knew I was woken up because I knew the call had come, and so I'm just gonna wait. I'm waiting for it. I said I wasn't gonna talk about it when I psychically transmitted the message to call me. So I'm not going to tell you what time today. I'll leave that part secret, but I suspect it will happen today. Everything's different now, Diane. Dana Scully. We're gonna move quickly now, and things are going to change. Hugo. Cluck cluck. Birds are talking, Jack. For what we saw in Palmer yesterday, Diane, it's all different now. And there's no turning back. It's not over, but a new chapter has begun. That is for sure. Ripley's believe it or not.
Well, Jesus ascended to heaven.
Excuse me.
The story is he ascended bodily to heaven. The story is that his mother, still alive, asleep, ascended to heaven. So this is metaphorical of something. You don't have to throw it away. All you have to find is what it's saying.
What do you think it is saying?
What it's saying is he didn't go out there, he went in here. This is where you must go too. And ascend to heaven through the inward space to that source from which you and all life came. That's the sense of that.
That's the
But
center,
aren't you
Diane.
undermining one of the great cardinal doctrines of the traditional classic Christian faith, the death and the burial and the resurrection of Jesus, prefiguring our own and overcoming the body with a higher physical truth?
Well, that would be what I would call the mistaken reading of the symbol. That's reading it in terms of prose instead of in terms of poetry. That's reading a metaphor in terms of the denotation instead of in terms of the connotation.
Listen to him.
You understand that?
Please.
It's a purely literary problem.
The poetry gets to the unseen reality.
That which is beyond even the concept of reality.
Yes.
It's that which transcends all thought.
Yes,
It's
Diane.
putting you there
knows.
all the time. And in some way giving you a line to connect with that mystery which you are. And the myths do it, by gosh, they do it.
Mm-hmm.
Now, according to the normal way of thinking about the Christian religion, we cannot identify with Jesus. We have to imitate Jesus, but to say, I am God, as Jesus said, is for us blasphemy.
Blasphemy.
However, in the
Blasphemous.
Thomas Gospel, Jesus says,
Thomas.
He who drinks from my mouth will become as I am, and
who drinks
I
from my mouth
shall be he.
Will become as I am, and I shall be he.
That's Buddhism.
That's Buddhism.
We are all manifestations of Buddha consciousness, only don't know it. And the Buddha, the word means the one who waked up, or to wake.
Buddha.
Woke up to the fact that he
Buddha,
was
not
Buddha
Judah.
consciousness. And we are all to do that. To wake up
Wake
to
up.
our Jesus within us. This is blasphemy in the normal way of thinking in
Blasphemy.
Christianity. But it's the very essence of Gnosticism and of the Thomas Gospel.
Yep.
And heaven, that desired goal of most people, is within us.
Heaven and hell are within us, and all the gods are within us. This is the great realization of the Upanishads of India already in the 9th century BC. All the gods, all the heavens, all the worlds are within us. They are magnified dreams, and what dreams are manifestations in image form of the energies of the body in conflict with each other. And that's all myth is. Myth is a manifestation in symbolic images, metaphorical images of the energies within us, moved by the organs of the body, in conflict with each other. This organ wants this organ wants this. The brain is one of the organs.
So when we dream, are we fishing in some vast ocean of mythology that
It goes down and down and down.
Goes down and down and
And
down.
you can get all mixed up with complexes, things like that. But you're standing on the Lord of the Abyss, really. There's a Polynesian saying that frequently comes to my mind: standing on a whale, fishing for minnows. We are standing on a whale.
We're standing
The
on a
ground of being is the ground of our being. And outward turned, we see all these little problems here, but inward, we are the source of them all. That's the big mystical teaching.
You've seen what's happened to primitive societies that
I'm gonna use you
are
again for a
settled
while.
by
Your hat.
white man civilization. They go to pieces. They disintegrate.
I'll
They
give you this
succumb
one.
to vice and disease.
Mr.
And isn't
Jackpots will
that
wear
the
this and
same
help
thing
him
that's
out.
been happening to
Not
us
gonna be
since
too
our
chilly.
myths began to disappear?
Absolutely it is.
Isn't that why conservative religious folk today are calling for a return to the old-time religion?
That's right.
I understand the yearning. In my youth, I had fixed stars,